All right, you're still watching TVC Breakfast. We will now link up with Eshamo Moimodo and TJ Suadeye in Abuja studios for the conversation. Good morning, and how is Abuja this morning?
Yeah, good morning, Etoma. Good morning, Ibrahim.
Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Good
morning.
See you this morning.
Good morning.
See you too.
Right, so we can see 2027 is just around the corner.
So how's Lagos?
Oh, Lagos is calm and cool.
A lot.
Apart from the explosion that happened yesterday.
That's the bad news there. So
The
I was going to say 2027 is around the corner, and we're seeing politicians scheming ahead of that time.
Yeah,
Exactly.
a lot of realignments, scheming and all of that, but we'll keep our eye on that, and we'll definitely discuss that this morning on the show.
Absolutely.
And like we said at that time, it's the transfer window. So it's open for politicians to cross.
When you call it the transfer window, it sounds really funny. But however, I guess you guys can take it away from here.
All right. Good morning, and thanks for joining us on this segment of the program from Abuja. Now, the presidency and the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, have dismissed moves by former Kaduna State Governor Nasser El-Rufai to galvanize opposition figures towards unseating President Bwala Tinubu in the 2027 election. They accuse El-Rufai of being driven by an inordinate ambition that is destined to fail in his defection to the Social Democratic Party, SDP. Also, the APC noted that El-Rufai's plan to mobilize against President Tinubu's re-election in 2027 will not produce any significant outcomes. Malam El-Rufai earlier on Monday announced his defection from the APC to the opposition SDP, vowing to mobilize against APC government in 2027. Citing irreconcilable differences with the APC leadership, Malam El-Rufai expressed disappointment in the ruling party, stating that over the past 2 years, the party had strayed from its progressive principles. He highlighted his previous efforts to address internal issues privately and publicly, which he felt were ignored, leading to his decision to seek an alternative platform that aligns with his values.
However, the special advisor to the president on policy communications, Daniel Bwala, stated that while El-Rufai has the constitutional right to change parties, his motive will be closely examined in the coming days. Mr. Bwala, in a post on his verified X handle at Daniel Bwala, downplayed Mr. El-Rufai's political significance, arguing that his relevance was neither certain nor extraordinary. He criticized the former governor's decision to side with opposition figures, saying that attempting to unseat the incumbent government was not necessarily an ideology change. In its reaction, the Kaduna APC also said it was not worried by Mr. El-Rufai's exit from the party, describing it as political gyration. To lend credence to the position of the presidency and the APC on the journey to 2027 and the realignments, permutations and intrigues brewing in the polity, we have joining us in the studio the special advisor to the president on policy communications, Daniel Bwala. It's good to have you on the program this morning again.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Now, Mr. Bwala, you likely agree that the political landscape is becoming clearer and the stage is now set for the 2027 general election. But interestingly, it appears that the Social Democratic Party may emerge as the biggest challenger to the APC in 2027, potentially playing the role of the dark horse.
Well, thank you for having me, and good morning to the viewers. I do not think so. We've seen the movie before when Peter Obi went to the Labour Party. Initially, he wanted to run on the platform of SDP, but then they realized that SDP didn't have a structure. So he moved to Labour Party thinking that they will build up structure, as they said. Thankfully, they tried in their own case because they sold falsehood to the religious communities, and they rallied around him in the last election, which will never happen because the truth is being unfolded every time. In the case of Social Democratic Party, apart from the fact that they don't have a structure, even the congregation, so to speak, of political actors will clearly suggest to the Nigerian people that there is nothing phenomenal about that. It is not like a clap of thunder out of a blue sky. It is the recycling of politicians who feel that they are no longer in the seats or on the seat driving activities in government. If Nigerians will interrogate whether or not the coming together of what they call the coalition is with the intent of producing a fresh, new person with vision for Nigeria who has never been in government, whose track record will suggest that he has a vision for Nigeria. But if you look at it, it is just the coming together of politicians who feel that, you know, their mouth is not on the feeding bottle, and therefore they want to come together to unseat power. We are ordinarily not perturbed by the move of El-Rufai. Like I told you before now, all along I was, you know, throwing banters with him, thinking that he will reconsider his decision because the decision was not built out of any ideology. I mean, we all know. He even said it in the other interviews that he had with Arise News, especially. His grievances because he was not appointed. And he said because the security report which was presented by the National Assembly as the basis for which he was not nominated at the time he backed out, that it was not substantiated. So we all knew that it is not ideology-driven. It is ambition-driven. And we hear a lot of permutation. There were some who said he will be paired with Oshibanjo in 2027 because, you see, let me tell you something. They are creating activities. You know, not every movement is a motion, right? They are creating activities and the media must cover. Okay. But after 2 weeks, they will settle down and start fighting. Now,
Mr. Bwala, let's come to this aspect. El-Rufai is not a small fish in the waters. And I know you don't. You also agree with that.
No, I don't agree with that.
Okay, if you say that it's not giving your party any headache, how about when you consider the fact that before he decamped to the SDP, he has gone to consult with several power brokers in Nigeria, and if this coalition is formed, don't you think it will give the 2027 contest to your party a big headache?
So you have actually said two things. Number one, about the person of El-Rufai, and then the second one, you talk about coalition. Yep. Our party, we are not in the illusion, or we are not overconfident, or we are not dismissive of anybody. Okay. Political party is a family. If any member of the family is leaving or threatening to leave, you will make effort to reconcile. The attempt to reconcile does not mean the person is actually a threat, but it's actually an expression of the willingness of the family to keep family together. So, for example, if a member of your family is threatening your son or daughter, if they want to leave, it's not as if they leave, you will die. But you have to show that you're a father. You have to show you're a mother by trying to reconcile the people together. So he's inconsequential. I'm very honest. And Sheikh Usani, who is from Kaduna, will tell you, a few days ago, he said that when El-Rufai was incumbent governor in Kaduna, that President Bwala Tinubu lost in Kaduna. I mean, if you are an incumbent governor, you should be able to deliver if you are testing your popularity.
But he also helped to mobilize for 2023 for the victory of APC, the mobilization of the northern sector.
No, I mean, it is overstated. Let me be very honest. We all played our role. I played my role in the primaries. If he was speaking for a group of governors, it's not suggestive that he was the one driving the force. I mean, I'm a spokesman to the president. Does it mean I'm more important than the president or the cabinet? You are just speaking for the people. And so because you are media, and whoever comes to the media is first considered. So whenever someone is in the media, there is a presumption that he's a darling of the media because he supplies food to the media for the purposes of reporting. But in terms of impact, what impact exactly are these? So nobody is ruling out the fact that he was use the word part of the people that helped. We appreciate the use of the word part. But to say he did, that is personally where I disagree with. One. Two, you talk about coalition, very importantly. Generally, every election cycle, you will see this thing called coalition. One is the government in power. Two, association of those who feel they should be in government, which will be the constitution of so many factors. There are very minute people who have true vision for a change. But majority of what constitute the coalition will either be people who have not found their way in the government, or people who were defeated and they could not win election, and then people with all kinds of interests. The Nigerian people are the ones that you should be looking at. And so the president is focused on delivering on the promise to the Nigerian people, because when that time comes, they will make their decision whether they are comfortable with this idea of having a government that is not run in a way where systems will be established for the future of their children. Look at the dividends of the reform policy. Only yesterday you see the Africa is already considering Nigeria, as far as economy is concerned, one of the bulwark of economic development. Look at the food prices crashing down. The other day, they wanted to skew, they wanted to reshape narrative, and they said that the prices of items are coming down because we are importing. No, we've dealt with insecurity. You hardly hear so much of insecurity around the country. Farmers go to the farm enthusiastically, and they do what they do best. Look at the landscape of education in Nigeria with the NEL Fund. And look at the kind of breakthrough we're getting. Children are getting to have access to funds for the purposes of their education. Then look at the private sector, the way it is being restructured. Companies now are able to balance themselves, not to be companies that are feeding off of rent from government, but building on what we call competition. Look at what we have been able to provide in terms of our oil and our refinery. We used to be importers. We are now exporters of oil in Africa and the rest of Europe. So look at agriculture and look at the kind of breakthrough we're finding with the Ministry of Livestock. So Nigerians can look at the nook and crannies of the country, look at the lives of the Nigerian people. Even the Nigerian people over a period of 18 months have been able to adjust to a bit. You don't hear so much of complaint about I am dying. Because Nigerians can see that there is good intent on the part of the president to pilot this country. So when we are doing construction of Nigeria, they don't have time for people who come around, they are looking for power, and then they want to form association. When that time comes, we'll test our popularity. Nobody's afraid of any coalition.
Well, we hear you, Mr. Bwala, but the former governor of Kaduna State insists that the reason for him leaving the APC is because the party has departed from its progressive ideology on which it was formed. I know you don't speak for the APC, but as a member of the party, don't you think it's time for an introspection?
Well, so again, I will argue there are two things. He said he's leaving. That's why I said that exercise of his constitutional right is one, but motive will interrogate. Now, you're leaving based that the party is drifting from its ideology, and then you ask him what are those ideologies that the party is drifting towards. I expect the media to ask him. When somebody said, this is the reason I'm doing what I'm doing, you fact check him. He has not provided a single ideological problem that he felt the party is drifting away from, except if what he meant is that ideology means him being a minister in government. Because that is what we know as an event that has occurred for which he's not comfortable and is leaving. Whatever else is the reason. So I'll give you a good example. If you say in the past 18 months or 2 years, the party is drifting towards ideology, can you give us evidence of an occasion or a record prior to this time that you have been talking and crying about ideological change? No. Why? Because after you fail, and it is not, he was in one program where he said it is the president that didn't want him. If the president didn't want to appoint you as minister, would he nominate you? Will heavens fall? So,
but are you saying that his grievance is not justified because he complained about not being sidelined from the scheme of things?
Yeah.
Don't you think that his complaint should be taken in? Because you have not also mentioned the fact that, okay, maybe his complaint, he has been taken in, he has been heard, he has complained of being sidelined constantly. Has the party addressed
He has never been sidelined. So this is it. All that I know is that when he was nominated, in the course of the parliamentary inquiry that would lead to his confirmation, he backed away. He said he was no longer interested. Probably had he waited, some of these issues would have been cleared. If he is a politician who believes in the rule of law, you would have at least waited until you conclude with the parliament.
But some people felt that, sorry to cut you, some people felt that being a friend of the president, probably the president should have weighed in when the Senate puts on hold his confirmation.
That is exactly what we try to avoid, where we build a system and a country of cabals, where, for example, an arm of government, the legislative branch of government, are performing their duties, and then you are saying that the president to bypass protocol or to breach procedures because somebody has to be appointed. He's not the only minister that was rejected during that time. There are individuals that were rejected. Until today, there are members of all Progressives Congress who have come under prosecution in the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Are you saying that the president should also be wading all over the places? Then are we going to build a country? And most importantly, El-Rufai has been privileged. So he's the beneficiary of this good Nigeria. He has served as BP director. He has served as minister. He has served 2 terms as governor. I mean, if he believes in fairness, wouldn't he say, okay, alhamdulillah, let me just give opportunity to other generation? Why is it that a set of people who hold appointment, they want to hold it till they die? That's the point you must see. Today, his son is in the National Assembly. There are plenty of people who never saw the light of the day. So this idea that if I don't get what I want, the system must go down, will have to be, stopped. Otherwise, we will not build a structure that will provide for a good future. And President Bwala Tinubu is actually a construction engineer. That is his work as far as Nigeria is concerned. He is building, putting structures. That is not, have you heard in the past 2 years a moment on occasion where the president reacted to the opposition or reacted to people calling him names? I have never seen a consistent person who is focused on his job. At the same time, with the willingness to gather around a broad-based consensus of Nigerians to push the country like President Bwala Tinubu, that they said he will win without a shot of a bullet. Opposition from every political party are coming in. If he is not popular, if his government is not appealing, do you know we are emptying Labour Party? Not because we go and ask them to come. They are coming. Valentine Ozigbo has joined us. Balami has joined us. Even Peter Obi will join us.
So your party is also benefiting from this transfer window.
I mean, we are successful in this window.
You just said
we are the most successful club.
You just said Peter Obi will join you, and he's a major opposition as it currently stands.
Peter Obi will not run in Labour Party. They are all leaving Labour Party.
Okay.
So
what conviction do you have
for Valentine,
that he is going to join the APC?
Yes, for Valentine Ozigbo to come to our party. Valentine Ozigbo is actually the custodian of Peter Obi, right? Then I know for a fact that Peter Obi will join it. Do you know why I said that? You see, after 1 week or 2 weeks of these melodramatic activities because the way they scheme this thing is that every week you will hear a breaking news. A gladiator has joined SDP so that they will dominate the media space with conversation. And I hope that the media will be smart enough to know that. But that is what they intend to do, to keep the conversation in the media. But the thing is, why I said he will join us is, by the time the 2 weeks is over, and they are able to enjoy this momentarily coverage, when they sit down, they will start fighting over who will be president, who will be vice president, who will determine what will. The reason El-Rufai didn't go to PDP is because the structure there, he can't go and dictate things for them. But he told the world that SDP, the chairman, is his friend. So they went there because they want to go and dictate. Let me ask you, with the greatest respect, don't you have records of El-Rufai saying, I will never leave APC till I die? Don't you have records where he said there is no political party other than APC?
But for your politician, there is no permanent friend, no permanent...
Yeah, I'm not holding it against him because it's possible he may have said that around the time because of his feeling. Yeah. The only thing I said, which you gave in your monologue, is that your constitutional right of association is guaranteed. I don't have anything against that. But your motive must be interrogated.
Okay. Let's go to this other issue. You talked about the ideology of this government, that this government has been very consistent. Mm-hmm. I know one area of consistency of Mr. President is the aspect of deregulation. And a lot of people, Nigerians are beginning to see the benefits of deregulation.
Sure.
Prices are coming down.
Sure.
But just recently, there was this group, the Petroleum Products Retail Outlet Owners Association of Nigeria, Petron, asking that they're against the frequent reduction in prices of fuel, and actually that they back importation of fuel. Now, if you are calling for a regulation that 6 months limit should be given before prices will be reduced again, if the president is for deregulation and some persons are putting themselves because they are powerful, we must have it regulated. What is the thought of your government?
This is what we call interest group. In not just in political process, but even in economic activities, there's always be like in politics, we're seeing the alignment and realignment of interests. In the economic side too, there are alignment and realignment of private sector and industry players for the purpose of preserving themselves. I recall that not long ago when somebody confronted me with the question that if we are doing well, why is it that foreign companies are leaving Nigeria? And I made it clear to him. I said, check all the companies that left Nigeria, the countries they went back to, they died. So if Nigeria is not a climate for business, that's why you left. How is it that when you go there, you don't survive? Because for many years, people have benefited from the skewing of the system. They evade tax. They are giving unnecessary benefit. There is so much of what happened to them that is to the detriment of the Nigerian people and infrastructure in Nigeria. And when the president came, he said, we will play by the rules, we will obey procedure, and we will do it the right way so we can have a sustained economic development in Nigeria. So back to the question that you put in, interest group would always say what they want to say. But water will find its level when you create a competitive environment where there is no dominance in and monopoly in the economic activities in the private sector.
We'll come back to that, but we'll take this quick commercial break now. Don't go anywhere. We have more for you after this break. Stay with us. We're glad to have you back. You're still watching TVC Breakfast, and we're live in our Abuja studio. We still have with us the special advisor to the President on Policy Communications, Daniel Bwala. Now, just before we went on a quick break, we spoke about, the emerging trends in the economy. And President Bola Tinubu's economic policies are expected to face intense criticisms and opposition in the coming days as political forces realign to discredit the government at all costs. However, the administration's vulnerability has become increasingly apparent, particularly in the light of negative feedback from Nigerians regarding the economic policies of President Bola Tinubu. How do you, substantiate this, and how do you, allay the fears of Nigerians to keep calm?
So I will argue with the notion that it has become increasingly unpopular because there is no poll that was conducted to arrive at that.
Why would you say that? Have you been to the market recently?
Yes, we have been to different markets in the country where we can attest to you with every confidence that the prices of items are going down.
But some things are going up. Look at tariff and cost of electricity, telecom, in the telecom industry.
Correct.
So how do you now merge this? When one side is going down, another side is coming up.
That is how structures and systems are. Let me tell you. For example, I have always said in every media appearance that I make, because it's a fact that is there in the public domain, and it is a conclusion by experts, for Nigeria to attain the level it is expected to, there must be investment of between $30 to $100 billion every year for 30 years. I mean, it's a finding. So when you do that investment, then you can say we are getting right. It's a revenue issue. Our budget for this year is less than 35 billion. The 30 to $100 billion that is talked about is only on infrastructure, not in everything. Do you know today the budget of New York Police Department is $6 billion. $6 billion. So when you have limited resources to carry out what you need to do to make the lives of the people better, what you must look for is revenue. Thankfully, this administration has brought a revolutionary change in terms of oil output and production. You can see that, and it is evident. There are other non-oil sectors that we have seen rapid increase in revenue generation. If you look at the tax system, we've introduced the tax reform, which will bring about major things, putting structures in place. But before then, you still don't have the money. So when you see some of these places like increase in tariff, is for the purposes of providing good and adequate services that the masses deserve. So let me give you an example. I know you'll take me on that. In England, for example, I've lived there for a long time. Now, United Kingdom is one of the countries that collect the highest tax in the world. They tax your life out. But do you know that those taxes are to be able to bring about the quality of life and services to the people living in England?
Quality of life and services. Tariffs are going up, and we're seeing a reduction in service delivery. Look at take the telecom industry, for instance. A tariff is going up, but we see poor networks on a daily basis. Availability of some of this product has also come to question. How do you now merge this when you're tasking Nigerians with a lot of increases?
I get your point.
And they don't see the value for their money, and even their source of income is on a low level, is not increasing. How do you not expect them to believe what you're saying?
So services like telecom, there are certain services that are not mandatory. There is no law that says if you don't have a phone, you cannot succeed.
It is mandatory in this economy because businesses thrive more online, online. So if you are doing business, mandatory, then we're cutting out
I get your point. Sector. If you are doing, but let me even be honest. When you talk about businesses thriving, that businesses is mandatory for business, I will agree with you that it is business, not individual. But these businesses that also pay this high tariff you are talking about, don't they transfer the cost to the ordinary Nigerians?
That is it.
And that's why we have a regulatory body that looks at the services they are providing.
It's not been that effective.
Yes, that's why I said we have a regulatory body that is looking at those service provision and is placing a demand on them to provide the services or face penalty. So this is how it works. You cannot say because private sector players in the economy are not providing efficient service, therefore you will not put in infrastructure as a government, because your revenue is to put in infrastructure that make the service delivery better. But if they don't, we even have customer complaint system in the communication industry. So the Nigerian people can you suggest to me, for example, there is an evidence you've gathered of consistent complaint made to the regulatory body through the channels, and that the government failed to act on it?
We have a Consumer Protection Agency. I would like to say I see less of what that agency is doing in terms of controlling prices of commodities and, the fluctuation of prices. Is the government also looking into that?
So this is a private sector economy. It's not a controlled economy. In a private sector led economy, you allow competition. It's market driven based on services and then competition. The consumer protection is to protect the right of consumers. Some of the questions you ask relates to the right of consumers. And I'm saying that, so we have an agency. You have just complained you have not seen anything cogent and tangible that they are doing in protecting the interest. As a government, we welcome that kind of feedback. We will even want you to investigate further and give us the infraction that is there. Government will take action. The president is not shielding any appointee in his government. There is no shielding of any appointee. Anybody who fails to deliver on the mandate, the president will take action. That's why we have performance assessment.
Let me point out this aspect. In as much as it's a private sector, I'm asking that, are you also thinking that there could be some fifth columnists that want to rubbish the very good intention of government? Like you said, prices are coming down. We just heard about the oil sector, where some people are already coming together to try to stop that move. Aren't you considering the fact that there are fifth columnists that will do whatever? In telecom, you want to move everybody to band A, for instance. And like we said, the services are dropping. So what is government doing in that regard to ensure that, look, we don't allow the fifth columnists to rubbish our good intentions?
A government run an administration that is fair to all, and there are regulatory bodies that regulate the conduct of the private sector. Then we have the courts to deal with dispute. We have law enforcement to deal with aspect that has to do with law. So we have a system and we have structures. In terms of the fifth columnists, I've seen more of that in agriculture. And that's why you see people coming up, throwing their heads here and there saying it's because of importation. There was a time, sometime last year, when industry players in that agriculture sector will buy items in billions. They will hoard them, refuse to supply in the market for sale, so that they create artificial scarcity, and then the people would put pressure on government. There was a time it's like that. President Bwala Tinubu is not one who decides, he says, okay, I'll prosecute. He allows laws to function. I gave you an example of Economic and Financial Crimes Commission inviting and investigating public officers under his government or members of his party. If it were in those days, you see, you'll be hearing presidency, intervene here, intervene there. No, let system run. Let system run. So we are well aware of the fifth columnists, not only in the oil and, for example, I look at the one in the oil sector as interest groups. They want to cabal. Why do you think since 1999, I mean, retired army generals have governed. Obasanjo has governed now. Buhari has also governed. Retired army generals. So experience in military and then coming into the politics, they did not remove fuel subsidy.
Well,
because of the fear of the backlash. Because that industry had cabals, people that can make your government ungovernable. President Bwala Tinubu came and said that's the right thing to do. And he did it. When he did it at the beginning, what were we seeing? All kinds of sponsored protests here and there. Nobody, Nigerian people don't have time for any interest group to be pushing them for protests because Nigerians can see what the government is doing.
President Tinubu met with leaders of the Niger Delta yesterday who attempted to convince him to intervene in the Rivers State political standoff once again. However, this time President Tinubu insisted that the court verdict must be implemented. Some people perceive this as the president supporting Wike's faction, which appears to have gained an advantage due to the court ruling.
I do not think so. I do not think so because the president, number one, has intervened sometimes back when he asked them to go. He suggested to them if they could agree to what they resolve. And they all agreed. But when they left, the various parties did not obey something. So he said, I foresee this thing will happen in the future. But even in the course of that event, I remember there was a time there was so much of crisis that the president had to ask then Ajuri Ngilale, who appeared on television and said that the president takes no side and that the president respects the idea of governance in a state. No government should be obstructed from carrying out governance. So that statement, no government should be obstructed in carrying out governance, is it not protective of Fubara as a governor? Because he governs in the federal. He introduced local government autonomy. He wants local government autonomy to function. I can tell you today, that statement he made is the statement based on the rule of law. There is a verdict. The judgment of the court is valid and enforceable until it is overturned. In this case, it's judgment of the final court. And even Fubara said he is going to implement that. The president said the judgment must be given its own fruit. So everything is in order. But if you are thinking that the president is against Fubara, I am glad and I'll let you know that the president is never against Governor Fubara.
Now, one of the things the president talked about is go back home, telling both camps, go back home and achieve peace.
Correct.
Now, if the governor says he has no option to obey the Supreme Court judgment.
And he never complained about that.
He never complained. But there is this sword that seems to be dangling over his head, the impeachment. In your own thoughts, can there be governance if that sword is dangling over your head, that we're going to impeach you?
Yeah, impeachment.
Shouldn't they come together and...
The president asked them to go and resolve. He didn't ask anybody to go and instigate impeachment. I mean, the president would not support impeaching a government when you are carrying out your lawful duty, when you are implementing the decision of the court. No decision of the court say the man be impeached. The decision of the court never said the man be impeached. And he is attempting to carry out the judgment of the Supreme Court. So the idea of impeachment is part of those issues that are made to steer the controversy and the crisis. And the president has weighted it. When they go back and seek for peace among themselves, the issue of impeachment would not arise. Okay. I don't know whether you get the point.
Yeah, very well. Just let me quickly add. Sorry, let me quickly add this story. Now, the president also talked about we must care for the goose, otherwise we lose the golden egg. Talking in support of taking care of the Niger Delta region. Maybe you want to speak further on that.
You remember not long ago he had a meeting with the Ijo Nation representatives regarding the Ogoni land, with his intention to ensure that we explore our oil in Ogoni land. You can only achieve that in peace. And he called them for the purposes of collaboration and making sure that there is peace. Same thing with rivers and in the Niger Delta. And the president's words are quite poignant and very straightforward. You cannot get the fruit until there is a relative peace in that environment. And as a father, where he sits, he is a father to all. He is the president of the republic. That man, Fubara, is the governor. Wike is a minister. And whatever is the political differences they have in that place, president has maintained the position. Go and reconcile. Isn't it what politics is all about? Politics is not about war. You can only achieve success in peace. And for you to achieve peace, there must be concession from both sides. You consider, you look at the areas you disagree, fine-tune them, you look at the areas you agree. So areas you disagree, you minimize it because of compromise. That is all that the president is after.
We hear you, but very quickly before I let you go, again, the people are beginning to question the capacity of President Tinubu's cabinet, particularly a prominent online activist, Very Dark Man, criticized the ministers for what he says is their poor understanding of Nigerian issues faced on a daily basis. How is this administration responding to concerns raised by certain individuals for rapid growth in the economy?
That's why the president provided a mechanism. And I think he's the first to do that, when he didn't have to in the first place. When he said he was producing a system of performance assessment. And when the ministers were inaugurated, they made sure there was a retreat in which everybody was told in clear terms what the expectation of the government is in your respective ministry. And you can always assess yourself even before government assesses you, whether you're making progress. This is what you must do. These are the timelines. That is a mechanism. So, and the president periodically now implement the result of the assessment. So in between now and when he will implement that, events are taking place. During this period, there are legitimate complaints from Nigerians. Some complaints are not legitimate, can be from opposition that are based there. Some from concerned Nigerians like the individual you mentioned, which is fine. So all that I will ask the Nigerian people to do is to give the government that time for these timelines, the period when he will assess. Any minister who falls short of the expectation that is expected, that is required of him, the president will do the needful. The last time he did that, and that's why 5 ministers were, I think, dropped, and then some ministers were reassigned. It's an ongoing thing. It's a continuous thing. No minister is coming there and saying, well, we'll stay there for 4 years, we'll stay there for 8 years. What will keep you there is your performance. Well, what will take you out there is your non-performance. We'll
definitely keep an eye on that. We understand that the ministers are currently, undergoing, presenting their scorecard to Nigerians, so
Excellent.
we are watching for that. Thank you so much for your thoughts with us this morning, Daniel Bwala. It was good talking to you.
My pleasure, as always.
Well, that's our package from here in Abuja.